Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Wednesday, January the 3rd, 2024. Today is the 123rd birthday of Ngo Dinh Diem. He was president of South Vietnam. He was born January the 3rd, 1901. In Saigon, as it used to be called. I think it's now called Ho Chi Minh City, isn't it? And he was executed or murdered, whatever you want to say, on, I think, November the 2nd, 1963. Now, he has been talked about quite a lot recently, and I've certainly talked about him in some of my videos. Because you actually can get a verb from his name. His name was Ngo Dinh Diem, D-I-E-M. And so you've got the phrase being diemmed. So what does it mean to be diemmed? So to be diemmed, you have to be president of a country. So it's quite, not everyone can be diemmed. You have to be president of a country. You have to be supported by the Americans. And then the Americans must then decide that they don't like you anymore, and they organize a coup against you, or they organize your death. And so that's what it means to be diemmed. And one person who is in particular danger, according to some people, of being diemmed is Volodymyr Zelensky. So, there are some really interesting parallels between Ngo Dinh Diem and Volodymyr Zelensky, who's obviously the current president of Ukraine. And, sort of one parallel is that Lyndon B. Johnson, when he visited South Vietnam in 1961, described Ngo Dinh Diem as the Churchill of Asia. And 2 years before, the Americans were basically involved in his killing. So it shows how the Americans can turn against you quickly. Likewise, people have described Zelensky as a Churchill figure. He should have been worried by that. It's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous compliment if you're a president. Being supported by America to be compared with Churchill, and like Ngo Dinh Diem, there is a view now that Zelensky is starting to become a liability. So what I really wanted to talk about specifically, which I didn't really want to talk about Zelensky today and Ukraine. I've talked enough about Zelensky and Ukraine, but it was the shelling of the Western Russian city of Belgorod on December the 30th last year. So that was, less than a week ago. I think it took place around 3:10 in the afternoon. Now, this shelling, it would seem, was by Ukraine. Was shelled with, I think there were Czech-made components in the shells. In the shells, there were cluster bombs, which of course was provided by the United States, and the target appears to be entirely civilian. Apparently, it wasn't about military targets. It was just essentially a way to terrorize the population of Belgorod. I think a skating rink was hit. It was in the afternoon. People were out. There was a Christmas tree. I think that at the moment, 25 people were killed, apparently including 5 children. And so it was an atrocity. And there is a view that Zelensky actually was responsible, or was one of the people responsible for organizing it, for ordering it, or whatever. So there is this question: what is the link between Volodymyr Zelensky and this event. And I want to use astrology to consider what role Volodymyr Zelensky might have had in this shelling, because I have a feeling that this shelling, it's certainly a tragedy, it's certainly an atrocity, but it's important. It may be somehow a turning point, and the astrology does seem to suggest this, and I want to look at that. Other thoughts come to my mind. Were the Americans happy about this shelling of Belgorod? Were they happy about cluster weapons being used? Were the Czechs happy about weapons that they supplied to Ukraine being used in this way? I don't know. I'm thinking there might be something going on there, and that's something I want to really discuss in this video. I also want to have a quick look at Zelensky's next solar return, because it's his birthday at the end of the month, and there's some interesting stuff going on for him at the time of his birthday, which may well link to this shelling of Belgorod. So this is something I want to go into. But before I do that, I want to look at the astrology and the I Ching for today, which is January the 3rd, Wednesday, January the 3rd, 2024. Okay, so let's look at the astrology. Now, one thing you might notice, if you've been looking at my videos, you will have noticed that I had some problems with the astrology program I was using. The problem was this. The problem was like, let me just change to a different. I was having problems like I couldn't center the chart. And this started a few weeks ago, and I was thinking I couldn't fix it. I thought, what have I got wrong? Some commenter kindly suggested that I might look at try to change the window size or something. I couldn't fix it. I'm a Gemini, and my solar ruling planet, if you use sun sign astrology, is Mercury, and Mercury has been retrograde for the last few weeks. And for the last few weeks, I've been having this problem. And anyway, just now it was on January the 1st at, let's use London time. London time, 3:48, at 3:48 a.m. on Tuesday, January the 2nd, using London time, I suddenly sorted the problem out. It was all to do with a difference between portrait and landscape, and I was on the wrong one, and I figured this out. You see, now I can, this button here, I figured it out. Now, why am I telling you this completely trivial thing? Reason I'm telling you this completely trivial thing is that London time on Tuesday, Mercury went stationary direct at 3:09 a.m. and just over half an hour later, at 3:48 a.m., I magically solved the problem. And so Mercury retrograde hit me with this issue with this piece of software. Anyway, I'm sorry to be so trivial, but I was excited about it. Maybe you're not, but I was just trying to illustrate how Mercury retrograde might actually function, at least for me. Maybe Mercury retrograde is only a problem if you're an astrologer. But yeah, okay, so this is the astrology for today, the chart for today. This is January the 3rd, 2024 at noon. So what's going on? Well, the main thing going on is you will see that the moon is now fairly and squarely it's in Libra. And, it has been in Virgo. Now it's in Libra. Libra is a more social sign than Virgo. It's an air sign. It's about, thinking, talking. I think, we're able to be more communicative. Particularly, as you can see, the moon is making a sextile aspect to Venus. And Venus, in turn, is in mutual reception to Jupiter, i.e. Venus is in Sagittarius, a sign ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Taurus, a sign ruled by Venus, so they're in mutual reception. So this, the fact that we've got Moon in Libra, sextile Venus, is great for relationships. It's great for talking to people, but it's not really a particularly emotional contact. Venus is in Sagittarius, Moon is in Libra. These are positive signs. It's about communicating with people, just in a sort of light, friendly, happy kind of way. We can perhaps say what's on our mind without worrying too much. And it's a great day for communication in most cases. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to always be great. There is the possibility of making a bit of a fool of ourselves. Reason being is, notice that Venus is at 5-6 Sagittarius, and Jupiter is at 5-6 Taurus. That means we have a quincunx between Venus and Jupiter. They are 150 degrees apart. So I know these two planets are in mutual reception. I don't think this quincunx is going to cause too many problems, but there's a certain danger of excessiveness. That Venus in Sagittarius, is a very can be quite excessive, and so in terms of communicating, we might be just perhaps a little too effusive. So we don't want to go over the top. We don't want to take liberties. I think that the people we come into contact with, they'll be happy to talk, they'll be happy to have fun with us, whatever, jokes, that kind of thing. But they don't want massive exhibitions. They don't want to have to deal with over the top emotion, exaggeration, gushing feelings. So avoid that kind of thing. Do not be excessive. Just enjoy people's company, but you do need to respect. You need to respect people's boundaries. There is also a semisextile between Mars and Pluto. Now, we might not feel this, but when you've got a semisextile between Mars and Pluto, you have to bear in mind that there is a somewhat tense relationship between these two planets, because the planets are adjacent. Mars is in Sagittarius, and the next sign on from Sagittarius is Capricorn, and Capricorn and Sagittarius are in really, really different energies. So we have sort of felt a bit of a build-up to this semi-sextile, but now it is exact. And there may be issues of power. People wanting to be powerful, but not quite knowing how to do it. You might think that if you want to assert yourself, you might have to make a big noise about it. Might really have to scream and shout. But Pluto says, no, we don't want to do that. So you've got this contradiction. You want to assert yourself, but if you do try to assert yourself in the way you're planning, in a loud way, then you're going to achieve the opposite of what you're trying to, the opposite of what you want. And you might just aggravate people. So if you're the kind of person that is into power, you're going to have to be very subtle. It's certainly not a time for being overly aggressive. You have to perhaps use your feelings to work out what the best way forward is. Now, If you are into hypothetical planets, which I kind of am, there is a rather disturbing opposition between the Sun and Hades. Now, you can't see that in this chart because this chart doesn't show the hypothetical planets. But if I were to put them up, you can see there is Hades at 1249 Cancer, and there is the Sun at 1248 Capricorn. So Sun opposition Hades. Hades can be about death, it can be about crime, it can be about garbage, it can be about, oh yeah, just reminded myself, I need to put out the garbage tomorrow morning, so it's good that Hades has just reminded me that needs to be done. That's really good. So Sun opposition Hades is potentially about a situation where there is criminality, there is garbage around us. We might get involved in things we really shouldn't be getting involved in, and having to see a side of life that we don't really want to associate with. So advice there is kind of avoid anything sort of criminal. Don't be tempted. It might seem exciting, but it's just not worth it. So that's the Sun opposition Hades. It's not a rare aspect, that opposition. It does happen once a year, but it is happening today. So perhaps a bit of caution may be required there, and we have to just behave and watch out who we hang out with. Okay, so having looked at the overall planetary situation for today, I want to look at the 12 signs of the zodiac. So these are my forecasts for the 12 signs for Wednesday, January the 3rd, 2024. Aries. Other people do matter. You can't just go storming ahead, thinking about yourself and your ambitions. You have to stop and consider your social environment. And in particular, you need to consider the people closest to you, because they really do matter. If you ignore people's feelings, or if you give people the brush off without really thinking what you're doing, you're going to cause offense, and it's going to could cause problems for you later on. Remembering Aries as a sign can be very rude. I'm not saying people who have Sun in Aries are rude people, but they can be. Okay, I understand all of us can be rude, but Aries do have that potential. So you do need to consider the social dimension, for a number of reasons. In terms of, let's say, career, if you're working today, you'll notice that there's the moon in Libra is starting to make a square to the sun, the sun in Capricorn, and that square between the sun and the moon, which is getting stronger as the day progresses, is kind of indicating that if you want to be successful, you're going to need someone else's support. At the same time, people who aren't supportive could undermine your efforts to be successful. So before you rush forward to try to, put your ambitions on a good footing, do consider other people. They can be a great help, but they can also be a hindrance if you treat them in the wrong way. On a more positive note, Mars is conjunct the Mercury-Cupido midpoint. Now, Cupido is another hypothetical planet. It's a hypothetical planet to do with unions, often relating to sort of love. And, so Mars is your ruling planet. So it's on the Mercury-Cupido midpoint. So this indicates that if you make the effort, you're able to communicate in a very persuasive but charming way. You can get people to do things your way just by being kind, by using nice words, and it shouldn't be too difficult. So yes, you've got things to say, and you can say things. You can say things wonderfully, and I suppose from a romantic point of view, it's actually quite a good day, for example, for writing love letters. Do people write love letters anymore? I don't know, but that kind of thing, text messages, emails, you can, whatever if you're trying to strengthen a relationship today, Aries, for whatever reason, and may not just be romantic, your words can really be the building block. They can really help. Taurus, it's in some ways perhaps not such an exciting day. I think you now realize that it's 2024. You realize the holidays are over, and that there are things that need to be done, and these things that need to be done, at least on the surface, may seem a little tedious, but it's got to be done, and so you need to sort of get down to it and really not complain. At the same time, you need to consider how you can make other people comfortable. Reason being is, because there is a sextile aspect between the moon and Venus. Now, Venus is your ruling planet. So I know I said that suggested that today might be rather tedious, but I'm not saying it's a bad day, not at all. If you do things right, it actually should be a very good day. It's just that it may not be a super fun day. But with moon sextile Venus, there are certainly things you can do to improve relations with other people for whatever reason, on whatever level. You know what to do, and really, the thing that really matters is just attending to the small details. Actually, Taurians are quite good at that. Small touches, putting effort into something. It may not be very much. It may not take much time, but it will be noticed. And it will be noticed, and it will be appreciated. And it really isn't going to. It isn't going to be a problem. You might think it's boring making those small efforts, but just a minute of your time could make a huge amount of difference in terms of building up social capital with the people who matter. Now, I'm not saying that everything is fine. When I introduced the astrology for today, I mentioned the fact that Venus was quincunx, 150 degrees from Jupiter. Venus is your ruling planet. Some Taurians may be excessive. What is that part of your life, Taurus, which right now you're you can be excessive in. Every Taurus has an area of their life where they're excessive. Could be expenditure, could be food, could be something you're really into, something about luxury. Indeed, a Taurus without any luxuries, without any capacity for excessiveness is probably a dangerous Taurus. So consider, what is that part of your life where you can be excessive? Because that might be a problem. Maybe you'll eat too much today, or you'll drink too much today, or you'll spend too much today, something like that. Or you'll just be too emotional, some area of excessiveness, which could spoil the day and could make people, wonder, whether you're someone who can really be trusted or someone who is reliable. So work out what that is and sort it out. If you can do that, the day should be fine. Just understand your responsibilities and, consider other people and their needs. Gemini, it's going to be, I think, a better day than yesterday. This is because the moon is now moving into Libra, and you're a Gemini, you're an air sign. Libra is an air sign. When the moon is moving through Libra, and you're a Gemini, it feels that things are moving. You don't feel quite so stuck today. I think yesterday, day before, you did feel a bit stuck. You felt there was a lot of obligations, holding you into one place, and that really wasn't to your taste. And now you've got, you do have more freedom, and there's more scope to enjoy yourself. Having said that, you do have the capacity for taking things too far. Geminis are hard people to predict. Everything is fine, and then they just do something. It's not expected. And there is a temptation there, Gemini, for you to do something which breaks the rules. I mean, I don't mean it in a unlawful way, but more breaks the rules of your normal behavior, just doing something out of the blue, which is completely confusing. You might suddenly be in a situation where you feel you have to act, that action really is important. And your action at the time might seem the right thing to do, but it might be excessive. It just might cause too much distress. So consider that, and you do need to consider other people and consider what impact your actions might be having on them. So a bit of restraint. A bit of restraint might be in order. So just focus on trying to enjoy yourself, trying to be creative, but in a way that is mindful of your social environment. Keep in mind the balance. You've got to keep in balance with the people around you, and it's a fine balance. And that balance could so easily be upset. So make sure that you behave appropriately today. But on balance, yes, balance. Overall, it should be a good day. Cancer. It's a day when you may feel that you do need to protect yourself. I don't mean that in a a frightening way. Just protect yourself from getting overwhelmed by the world around you. You do need some boundaries. Certainly an emotion at an emotional level. Yeah, it is easy to be overwhelmed. particularly today. And there may be certain people who are, trying to assert themselves, trying to get their way, and it may not be entirely to your taste. So it would be a good idea if you perhaps took a step back and didn't get involved. Though at the same time, some Cancerians might actually be their own worst enemies. Not all Cancerians, but a few might have strange thoughts, unhealthy thoughts, getting involved with things that they shouldn't be getting involved with. The reason I'm saying this is because, I said in this introduction that there is this opposition between the Sun and Hades. And actually Hades is moving through your star sign. Now Hades is going to be moving through your star sign for years. It's a hypothetical planet, and it's extremely slow, obviously, because it's a hypothetical planet. All these hypothetical planets are fantastically slow. But the Sun is opposition Hades across the main axis of your solar chart, and it may be that some of the things you show an interest in cause alarm. Maybe you've got a vivid imagination. Maybe you have some strange interests that some people don't appreciate. And you want to talk about your interests because it's really interesting to you. But maybe other people don't want to know. Because Cancerians, they have their secrets, and be wary of sharing those secrets, those secret interests. I don't know. I mean, for example, I don't know. You may be interested in crime. In a sort of an academic way, you might be interested in who's murdered who. Newspapers, some people are interested in that kind of stuff, and you may want to talk about it. Did you know there was a body found, or something like that? Other people might not want to know. So be careful what you talk about. But I'm talking about a minority of Cancerians. I don't think most Cancerians are going to have to worry too much about this Sun Hades opposition. Leo. When I was discussing what's going on in the life of Cancerians, I was talking about the Sun Hades opposition, and the Sun is your ruler. So the Sun, your ruling planet, is opposition Hades. Now, don't worry, this happens every year. It's not a big deal. But I think some Leos are going to look at the world around them, and they're not going to be happy. Crime, I've just talked about crime for Cancerians, so there may be a fascination with crime. No, I don't think for you, no, we're not talking about a fascination with crime. You seem to be particularly aware of danger, criminal danger. For example, where you're going. Are you going to be vulnerable? Now, I'm not actually talking about actual real events. I don't think. I'm talking about your fears and your concerns in a social sense. You're going to look at the world around you and you're going to say, well, this is a dangerous place. There's going to be a definite wariness there when you approach the world, and you're not going to want to take risks, and you may see dangers behind a lot of corners. I'm not saying you're wrong to be cautious, but don't go over the top in that direction. And if you can get through those fears, it should be an okay day. Your communication skills today, I think, are extremely good. You really know how to express yourself. I think you know how to get people to like you. Um, I think you have enough sensitivity to understand what the rules of engagement are for particular people. Everyone's got rules of engagement. Some people like certain behaviors, other people don't like it. I think you'll know how to behave, and because you know how to behave, I think you can be successful. And if there are people you want to get on your side, people you want to ingratiate yourself with, then I think you'll do a great job. So that is good. But if you're, I suppose, if you're concerned about career, business, that kind of, work, it's just possible that you might find one or two people's antics irritating. Maybe someone's playing the fool in a way that you regard as being inappropriate. Remembering that Leo can be quite a serious sign, and you might have a sense of humour deficit today. I think maybe you should lighten up a bit, because I don't think a bit of low-level joking around is going to really upset your ambitions. So that's it, Leo. Overall, it's not a bad day. Just don't get too worried. Virgo. Virgo, you are a little concerned about money. Money matters to you. That's fine. I don't see any financial problems specific to today. I think actually you can do things to stabilize your financial situation. After all, the moon is in Libra, which in the Virgo horoscope is a sign that is very much associated with money, and it is making a sextile aspect to Venus. So actually, it might actually be a good day for talking about money. Now, I know we're not supposed to talk about money. It's one of those things that we shouldn't talk about, maybe along with religion and politics. But I think you'll know how to talk about money. You'll know what to say. You'll know how to deal with other people's sensitivities. And so if there's something you want financially, now might be a great time to sort of ingratiate yourself with people, and don't be tempted to force the matter. I think that some Virgoans might feel that if they start to sort of worry a little bit about money, they think, oh no, got to do something, got to say something, got to make a big splash. People have to listen to me. That's not the right approach. You have to be subtle. And I know that sometimes Virgos can be very unsubtle. You just feel, well, it's got to be said, so let's say it. No, you just got to be subtle, and people will listen to you. And in the end, if you're patient, I think that you will get your way. Libra. It's a day when you are certainly in tune with the world around you. After all, the moon is moving through your star sign, and that means that you understand other people. You know how to behave. So that's certainly good news. And also, the moon is not just going through your star sign; it is making a sextile to Venus, which is your ruling planet. So moon sextile Venus, you really know how to express yourself. You are a great communicator, but communicate in a way which you are familiar with. don't feel pressured to communicate in a way that's unfamiliar. I mean, don't be overly emotional today. It's unnecessary. Emotions are not required today. Okay, you can show that you understand, you appreciate people. You can show a bit of kindness, but you don't have to go over the top with your feelings. You don't have to exaggerate. You don't have to force things. Just be natural. Because as a Libran, you just have an understanding about the way it works, the way the social environment works, and because of this understanding, you'll know how to behave without having to force things. Scorpio, a change is coming up. You've been in a sort of a particular place for quite a long time. It's a place where you have had a lot to say. You've had a great need to express yourself, but it's kind of coming to an end. I suppose a reason for this is that now Mars, your ruling planet, is now moving through the last degree of Sagittarius. So it's about to change sign. It's about to move into Capricorn, and that is a big change. The change is not quite there, but it's almost there. And so this might mean, Scorpio, that you don't actually feel that you want to commit yourself to anything. It's like you're leaving one room, but you haven't got to the next room yet. And so if you want to not commit yourself, that is okay. But as you're going out of the door, you are thinking about issues of power. This is because Mars, your ruler, is making a semisextile to Pluto. Mars is at 29 Sagittarius. Pluto is at 29 Capricorn. You feel that you do want to assert yourself, that you've got to show the world that you're the boss. You're in some ways a little more important than other people, maybe. I would suggest that you understand the situation. You are in a process of transformation. Mars is semisextile Pluto. Pluto is a planet of transformation, and Mars, your ruler, is about to change sign. It is a process of transformation. And you could say that when you're in a process of transformation, you are, in some respects, quite vulnerable. Maybe like a snake shedding its skin. That moment when that snake is under a rock shedding its skin, it doesn't want to get involved in big fights, big arguments. It just wants to be left in peace. So maybe you should just accept that and not feel that you have to do anything, even though you might feel that you're tempted. There are going to be people who are behaving in different ways. There are going to be some people who are really annoying you. They're just people who don't know how to behave, and you might feel you've got to do something, you've got to say something. But I wouldn't have said that you do. On the other hand, I think there is one person who you do need to communicate with. You certainly don't want to be completely isolated today, because it's just one person who really wants to talk to you, who certainly can do you good, but you can do them good. You can do them some good as well, and you need to realize who that person is. This person is not a threat, and a bit of your time, even if it's 5 minutes of your time, would be greatly appreciated. Sagittarius. It's a day when you are pretty sociable. Sagittarians are always pretty sociable. Most of the time. but but today you're able to mix with lots of different people. It doesn't matter who they are, what their background is, what their interests are. You can switch from one person to another person, change your style, change what you talk about. It's quite easy for you. So I would suggest, Sagittarius, that you have a fairly high profile social life today. I mean, you don't have to go crazy about it, but there are lots of people to talk to, and you are actually quite charismatic at the moment. You can show an interest. You can not just show an interest in people, but they're going to kind of gravitate towards you because you're going to come over as being quite an exciting person. I mean, Sagittarians very often are exciting people, and that excitement is going to be very clear. It's going to be easy to demonstrate that you really aren't a boring person. So I think you should really make the most of that. And in the process, I think you can develop new relationships, strengthen existing relationships, and it all should be very easy. But there's no need to go over the top, though, I should say, because I said that Venus is making this 150-degree aspect to Jupiter. Jupiter is your ruling planet. So if Venus is making a semi-square to Jupiter, making a quincunx 150 degrees to Jupiter, okay, there is a bit of scope there for behaving a little bit inappropriately. That's not what today is about. You have to treat people with respect and not suddenly go crazy. I don't think it'll happen, but Sagittarians, they often do have a bit of craziness about them. It's usually really interesting craziness, but don't take it too far. But you won't, will you? So overall, I'm optimistic, Sagittarius, that you can have a successful day. Capricorn. It's a day when I think you can really show the world what you can do. It's a day when it's okay actually to have quite a high profile. Now, I understand that Capricorn is quite a modest sign, that Capricorn doesn't usually seek the limelight. You don't have to seek the limelight. You're in the limelight anyway, and by understanding your social environment, particularly your social environment from a sort of material point of view, particularly if you're career, business, whatever, you know about the people you have to deal with, and you can make your presence felt. It's not going to be difficult. You're actually helped by the growing influence of a square aspect between the sun and the moon. Now, I know squares, are often regarded as being difficult, but if you think about it, the moon is in Libra, and Libra in the Capricorn chart is often related to career, and the sun is in Capricorn, and so when you've got the sun, which is you, square the moon, which is in your in the career sector of your solar chart, you've got this sort of dynamic power, and so there's this dynamism there, and there's a motivation there to make an impression. You understand that the holiday season is over, Christmas is over, the New Year nonsense is over. we're now definitely in 2024, and there are things to be done, and you can do them, but you can do them in such a way that you don't cause offence. So if you need people to do things for you, you don't have to bark orders at them. You could. I mean, that is possible, that you bark orders at people, but you won't be successful if you do that. You can get people to do things your way, through gentle persuasion, and by understanding what people want. You give a little, and you get quite a lot back. So that's your day, Capricorn. Looks okay to me. Aquarius. It's a day when you are, I think, a bit thoughtful. You're thinking about ideas, I think, the way the world should be. You're not entirely convinced that any particular course of action is correct. So there might actually be, Aquarius, a certain amount of indecision today. And I know the planet Mercury, the communication planet, is going direct. But, so very often when Mercury is going direct, that's a time when we can start making decisions. But in some respects, Aquarius, I don't think you're ready to make decisions. Not yet. I think you're still mulling things over. Different ideas, this idea, that idea, is that the right thing to do? And it may be that you feel that you need to talk to a couple of people, talk about your concerns. You do have concerns, and perhaps you want to discuss these concerns. This is not, I'm not talking about anything very serious. It's just something that needs to be done. Because when you discuss something you're concerned about with someone else, it suddenly becomes clear, and you can start to get an idea about whether your concerns are actually legitimate. So that is something to consider. Though on a slightly different note, in terms of relationships, in terms of the people close to you, it's possible that there's one person who is perhaps on the verge of making a mistake. They may be a bit like, rabbit caught in headlights or whatever. They just don't know what to do, but they're thinking of going in a particular direction. They could, if they stay in their current state, bad things could happen. And perhaps what you need to do is gently intervene. And so by gently intervening, you can prevent something bad happening. So consider what that is, and sort of look at who might be on the verge of doing something stupid, and you can very gently sort the problem out. So that's something to think about, Aquarius. Pisces. Pisces, in some respects, you are quite serious at the moment. You understand that something you thought was easy, you now realize that actually it's quite complicated, and so you now have to deal with the issue, and it's I think taking longer than expected. But that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can't expect everything to happen quickly, and it may be that on the way you can get some help. The moon is making this sextile aspect to Venus. Venus is a planet of other people, and this moon sextile Venus for you is about having something you're trying to work with, possibly relating to money or work or something like that, or career, business, whatever, having this issue, and then talking to people about it, getting some feedback, getting some assistance. You're very good at asking for help right now. If you ask for help, I think you'll get help. So don't be too proud to get some assistance. If you do that, then I think there are a lot of things that you can sort out. At the same time, if you're if you're working in a career setting, you may be able to form a new relationship, or at least develop a rapport with someone who you perhaps hadn't been able to get on with before, or someone new. There is scope there for someone new to come into your life. I'm not saying it's going to be dramatic, but there is someone out there who you need to perhaps make an effort to cultivate, at least in terms of friendship, or discovering perhaps some kind of common interest. But the words are going to be important. So if you see someone who you want to get closer to you, think about what to say. And the more, the fewer words you use, I think the better. Okay, so that's the astrology. And so what I want to do now is turn to the I Ching. And so, as always, I ask the question, what is Wednesday going to be like for those watching this video? And so the first hexagram I got was hexagram 24, return. So this gives us the idea of being involved with something, something new perhaps, and then at some stage deciding, okay, we've got involved with it, we've gone as far as we can with it, and it's now time to go back, time to return. So consider, what in your life right now are you involved with? Probably something quite new, and you're maybe thinking that it's time to call it a day, to stop, to sort of withdraw. Now, it might be some relationship, it might be people, it might be some social activity that you've been involved with. It may be an activity you're involved with which has a certain amount of danger or risk. You've enjoyed it so far, but maybe you've reached a point where you have to say enough is enough. You understand what's going on. You've maybe had good experiences. It's certainly been interesting, but you've seen enough. You understand what can go wrong, and you want to go back. You want to return. That's what return means. And the first line, the bottom line of this hexagram, you see that the bottom line, we've got an unbroken line that breaks. And so that first bottom line, it moves. And so when you've got that bottom line moving, what it means is that probably you have made a mistake somewhere along the line. A small mistake. It's not a bad mistake. You had your path. You had this path that you wanted to go down, and you sort of got off the path just a little bit, or perhaps you've got involved in some activity that is bad, wrong, just a bit, and you need to get back on the path. It could be anything. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, it could be something like having given up cigarettes a long time ago, and maybe you had the old cigarette yesterday or a week ago, and it's okay. Then you can just return to the path. You can just stop smoking. There's a little, that would be an example. So it might be a bad habit like smoking or drinking. Well, I suppose taking drugs, or something like that. And it's just easy to just say, no, okay, you've made the mistake. You haven't gone so far off the path that it's a disaster. You can just return, give up that activity that you shouldn't be doing. Maybe it's people. Maybe there's someone who it's a bad idea to hang out with, and okay, you haven't gone too far. It's okay. You can return without coming to grief. So that's actually quite fortunate. It's the I Ching is not being heavily judgmental here. It's just saying, okay, you made a small mistake. It's okay. You can come back now. It's okay. Of course, if you keep going, if you decide to ignore the advice, okay, then who knows what might happen, and you might get into real trouble. But I think it's okay. You're going to listen to the I Ching, aren't you? So this I Ching, this hexagram 24 return, it does change. It changes to hexagram number 2, which is the receptive. See, all the lines are broken. So we move into a situation where we should not be doing anything. We should not be initiating anything. We need to look around us. What is the world telling us? We need to listen. We need to look. We need to watch. Receptive means about listening to our feelings. It's not a time for big ventures, big activities. That was the issue with return. Return was about, in the previous hexagram, return, that was about perhaps taking an initiative, but a bad initiative. We don't certainly, receptive is about saying, okay, let's just listen. Let's feel what's going on. See what other people are doing. Be receptive to other people's ideas. It doesn't mean we have to accept the ideas. We don't have to accept anything. We just have to just watch and feel, and then at some stage we'll have a clearer idea about what needs to be done. But that stage is not going to be today. So that's the I Ching. I think it's quite clear what the message is. Give up bad habits. If you've done anything, if you're in the process of making a mistake, it's not too late to stop doing whatever you're doing, and just relax, be receptive. Don't feel pressurized into taking any initiatives. Okay, so now I want to go back to astrology, and I want to look at the shelling of Belgorod on December the 30th. Now, Belgorod is a city in Western Russia. It has been attacked a lot since the war started at the beginning of February 2022. So it's not kind of new because it's right on the border between Russia and Ukraine. So let's look. Let's look at the chart now. By the way, on the left, that is Nego. That's Nego Diem. On the left, of course, on the right, that's our friend Zelensky. So let's start by looking at the Belgorod attack, the latest Belgorod attack. As far as I know, it's the latest one, which happened on December the 30th, 2023, at I think 3:10 p.m., certainly around 3 o'clock. I saw one source said 10 past 3. It's something like that. Now, what is important about this chart? I mean, if you looked at this chart, so this is a chart. So imagine it's 3 in the afternoon. Christmas tree is up. This town is attacked with cluster bombs. I mean, a lot of the shells are shot down by Russian air defense, but some get through. I think a skating rink is hit. A lot of cars are destroyed, but it seems to be an attack on civilian targets, and in a sense, there seems to be a sense of anger here. It's an angry attack. That seems to be part of it, and clearly the Russians are really furious. They've sort of gone to the United Nations about it, and the fact that the Czechs have been, Czech equipment was used in the attack. Plus, I assume American equipment, because the Americans recently supplied Ukraine with a lot of cluster weapons. So, I'm not saying, actually, that in itself that chart is particularly dramatic, except for the fact that look at the moon. The moon is on the IC, so there's the IC, the lowest point in the chart. Moon is at 18 Leo, and it is square Uranus. So there was a square between the moon and Uranus at the time of the attack, and that square is, if you like, linked to the place. The midheaven is a very personal angle. That's the time it happened. So if you like, moon square Uranus, that aspect is around for a few hours, but the link to the moon to the IC is kind of giving us a much closer window, a window of maybe 15 minutes. That's the 15 minutes in the day when there is this vulnerability. Now, I'll be very soon explaining why that moon square Uranus is particularly important, because it may not seem immediately obvious from this chart, because moon square Uranus is quite a regular aspect. Twice a month the moon will square Uranus, so it's not a big deal, although I think it is a bit of a big deal, the fact that it's actually on the IC. So certainly with hindsight we can say, oh, moon is square Uranus, so that would fit. I know that there's a Mercury-Mars conjunction on the 7th house cusp. I suppose, having Mercury on the 7th house, I suppose you could say Mercury-Mars conjunction represents, I don't know, the enemy attacking this city. So you could say that. But every day, the Mars will be in the 7th house. So that in itself is not a particularly big deal. Now, I want to look at another chart now. I want to look at the chart of Zelensky. Now, before I want you to look at this chart, I want you to just remember a few things about the Belgorod attack. If it's 3:10 p.m., we've got Gemini rising, about 19 Gemini rising. We've got 15 Aquarius on the midheaven. And of course, we've got moon square Uranus. You've got a picture there? Okay, let's look at Zelensky's chart, shall we? Here is Zelensky's chart. Oh, that's a solar return, not his let's look at his natal chart, sorry. This is his natal chart. What do we see? Well, we've got Gemini rising again. We had 19 Gemini rising in the Belgorod attack, and he has got 21 Gemini rising at 2 p.m. I mean, we don't know for sure exactly what time Zelensky was born, but the time I've got is 2 p.m. Who knows? He might have 19 Gemini rising. We just don't know. But we've got the same angles in this chart, pretty much the same ascendant and the same midheaven in Zelensky's chart as we have in the chart of the attack. Now let's look at the moon in Zelensky's chart. The moon is on the IC in Leo. And it's square Uranus. Zelensky has a Moon-Uranus square at 17, Moon at 17 Leo square Uranus in Scorpio. At the time of the attack, the Moon was at 18 Leo square Uranus in Taurus, plus the angles lined up. So let me just put these two planets, two charts side by side. We'll put Zelensky's chart in the middle, and we'll put the attack on the outer wheel. It's just to do a comparison. So there is Zelensky's ascendant at 2147 Gemini. At the time Belgorod was attacked, the ascendant was 19 Gemini, pretty close. Midheaven, Zelensky's midheaven is at 20 Aquarius. The midheaven in Belgorod was slightly off at 15 Aquarius. But look at the moon. Zelensky's moon at 17 Leo, and the attack moon at 18 Leo. So that to my mind is a pretty good lineup. I mean, a pretty interesting lineup, a pretty powerful lineup. You can see other things going on. What's going on in his chart at the time. There's his Jupiter, Zelensky's Jupiter, 27 Gemini. Mars was coming up to the opposition of his Jupiter. This is the man who needs to do something. And then he's got his Mercury on his seventh house cusp. But I think the fact that you've got this Moon square Uranus at the time of the attack, and Moon square Uranus in Zelensky's chart, that is interesting. Now, you could say, oh, well, Zelensky just represents Ukraine. And, this is a theory that I have put forward, that, Zelensky is the head of state. So the chart of Zelensky, in a way, is the chart of Ukraine. Again, if you take the medieval concept of kingship, the king is the land is the king, that kind of thing. Okay, so you could say, well, that indicates an attack by Ukraine. But I just feel there's some, I don't know, I feel there's some personal involvement here. It's just, because this attack happened at the time of Zelensky's lunar return. So looking at the lunar return, the moon returns to where it was at birth every month. So Zelensky's lunar return, here's Zelensky's lunar return, was on December the 30th, was just a couple of hours before the Belgorod attack. The moon returned to where it was when Zelensky was born. So this is a lunar return. In his lunar return, he got 26 Taurus rising. 26 Taurus, that's where the fixed star Caput Algol is, the head of the demon. Now that might indicate bad things about to happen to him, possibly. But it might just indicate something about his state of mind. He is perhaps reaching the stage where shelling civilians is fine. And this is perhaps where he's at, and the lunar, shelling civilian targets. How else do you get back at the Russians? The Russians, sure, they've got more stuff to shell with. Yes, the Russians are focusing on on military and infrastructure targets. Yeah, civilians might get hurt, but I don't think the Russians are specifically focusing civilians, as far as I can see. And then Ukraine. As I may be wrong on that, but just my perception of trying to read, looking at the news, trying to find unbiased news reports. It's actually very difficult to find unbiased news reports with this war. But I think that Algol is perhaps suggesting that something is wrong here. And yes, in this lunar return, there's Moon square Uranus. So I do think this is important because this this attack happened so close to his lunar return, and he's got, Zelensky has moon square Uranus, so he's going to be very responsive in his natal chart. So he's going to be extremely responsive to to the moon Uranus cycle, and the moon Leo square Uranus. There is that anger, and it's in fixed signs. And that perhaps that anger was reflected in perhaps this decision to shell civilian targets in Belgorod. I know this kind of shelling happens all the time, but this incident seems to have been particularly important. As I said, it's using American cluster weapons. I think they're from American, using Czech armaments, and I'm suggesting a lot of people are unhappy about it. I think it's possible. Maybe the Americans, the Czech, obviously the Russians are unhappy about it. It's a kind of a departure. And of course, it would seem that the Americans are trying to push Zelensky into talks with Russia. That's what they want. And then he goes and shells Belgorod. And the Russians are furious. I mean, really furious. It's almost like he did this because he knew this might be a good way of making talks, making it impossible. And there's his moon square Uranus. That's how it's working out. So we can't say for sure what Zelensky's involvement in the shelling of Belgorod was, but if we just look at astrology, there is an indication that he really was involved, and that it wasn't just about anger. Well, anger was part of it, but it was about a point of departure, and this leads me to his birthday. I'm pretty much finished. I just want to look at his birthday, and remembering I started this video by talking about Dinh Diem, it's his birthday. It's Diem's birthday today, January the 3rd, and he was basically murdered, executed as a result of a plot. I think the CIA were involved because he had become a liability. Looking at the solar return of the solar return of Zelensky. This is for his birthday. So he was born on January the 25th. So this is January the 25th, 2024. This is when the sun returns to its place when he was born. I think he's going to be 46. So that's his solar return. Now let's look at, there's his sun, but it's a full moon. He's got a full moon, a pretty close full moon on his birthday, and the full moon, to my mind, represents the truth, a sort of an ending. And I think perhaps at some level, it may be that this shelling of Belgorod was, part of him is perhaps recognizes this. And if we compare his chart with the positions of the planets on his birthday, so if we look at the solar return chart, let's just compare these charts side by side. There's the full moon, right? Because Zelensky has his Sun-Venus conjunction, and this full moon on his birthday is on his Sun-Venus conjunction. I believe that is quite dangerous. This really is a time where, I've said in numerous occasions that he should go for his own good, but this full moon is really serious for him. And look at Pluto. Pluto will have now gone into Aquarius, and he's got Zelensky's Mars is at 015 Leo. Pluto is at 09 Aquarius. So he's got Pluto coming up to the opposition of his Mars. yeah, I just do feel that we're moving to the final act in Zelensky's play. I'm not saying he's going to get killed or anything. I think best solution is for him to just leave, go to, I don't know, Miami or wherever. But I think the final act is approaching. Yes, I think the shelling of Belgorod may be much more significant than a lot of people realize. Okay, that is all I've got to say on the subject for the time being. But I hope you find that of some interest. I think it's important. I know that I know people have different views about the war in Ukraine. But whenever you've got a war like this between Russia, Ukraine, there's a tendency to think one side is 100% right. If you read the Western media, oh, Ukraine is 100% right. Russia is 100% wrong. And likewise, if you're Russian, you take the opposite view. And, reality is that in most wars, and certainly in this war, it's not the case that any one side is fighting a completely just war. Both sides have their reasons for fighting, and it is a lot more nuanced, certainly from what the Western media is claiming. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. As I said, I hope you found it interesting. If you enjoyed this video, then do like it. I know that some people probably have not enjoyed this video, and they may feel they want to dislike it, or whatever you call it. And if you're not subscribed and you enjoyed the video, obviously, then I'd be very grateful if you subscribed. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. So thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.